Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and today we are starting a new series in this channel that was highly requested during my 1,000 subscriber appreciation event, and that is we are going to be doing in-depth character reviews of a lot of the characters in the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video game. I have a wide assortment of characters. I have about 31 7-star characters, which gives me a lot to talk about, and what I'll be doing is we're going to talk about a lot of the characters starting from their actual history in the Star Wars universe, because one of the main things that compels Star Wars to being one of the most popular franchises of all time is that almost every character in the game has some sort of personal story, some sort of story that really drives the main motive of Star Wars, and it adds a really excellent element to the game. So we're going to talk about the history of the character, and then we're going to move on to topics like how do you unlock the character, the stats of the character, like in-depth stats, not like some other videos where I just kind of briefly comment on this character. We're going to talk about their stats, the pros and cons of those stats, talking about their actual kits, like how their movesets work, how does the bot control them properly, and then we'll move on to topics of like what type of gear do they need? Are they hard to gear? Are they not hard to gear? And then eventually I'm going to leave you some tips about the character, some other information about it. And lastly, the thing that we're going to tie the bow on is I have this ranking chart here, and with this ranking chart that you are looking at right now, we are going to be categorizing these characters with Grandmaster being the highest status in the game and Youngling being the lowest one. And then we're going to talk about it, and you guys can definitely argue with me and let me know if you disagree with how I rank these characters. So today, what we're going to do, if you haven't already noticed from the intro video and from the gameplay you've seen so far, is we are going to be talking about Emperor Palpatine. And he is quite a character. He's unique to unlock, and he's also a unique character once you finally get him, with a lot of great pros and cons to him. So we're going to start off by talking about Emperor Palpatine's history, and we'll work our very way to the very end and see where he stands on our ranking charts. So, if you didn't know, Emperor Palpatine, he was born on the planet Naboo, and at a really young age, he realized that he was different from his peers, and he understood that he possessed a unique and great power within himself. Due to this, he knew he was born to be a leader of some sort, and eventually became an ambassador for Naboo in the Galactic Senate. During his earlier years, he encountered an individual who pretended to be a businessman, but in reality was Darth Plagueis. He was manipulated by Plagueis, and eventually he killed his own father and pledged his loyalty to his new master and the teachings of the dark side. Palpatine was later elected Supreme Chancellor during the Galactic Crisis and lived a double life by managing to conceal his true Force identity, which aligned with the dark side. Around this time of being elected as Chancellor, he killed his master in accordance with the Rule of Two. Through manipulating the galaxy with events that led to turmoil, he was able to orchestrate what we know as the Clone Wars. And as these Clone Wars went on, he eventually garnered the support of the Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker to be his new apprentice, and with his help executed Order 66. Order 66 was an order given to clone troopers to exterminate virtually all the Jedi, and at this point, he declared himself as Emperor of the First Galactic Empire due to no Jedi opposition, and had toppled the Republic, which had stood for over 25,000 years. So there you have it. So Emperor Palpatine, very critical character in the story. He manipulated Anakin Skywalker like his master did to him before, and took over the galaxy and started one of the strongest empires the world has ever seen. So let's go ahead and talk about the actual game now. So in the actual game, the way you unlock Emperor Palpatine is you need a set of 5 rebel characters, at least at 5 stars, to primarily unlock Emperor Palpatine in an event called the Emperor's Demise, which currently is not running, and it's unknown when it will come back. It is a rare event, but if you want to get Emperor Palpatine to 7 stars, his highest star count as any other character in the game, you will need 5 7-star rebels, and you need to be able to defeat Emperor Palpatine in your face-off in that highest tier level. So with that said, he is a unique character to unlock. He's not like your typical character, how you farm him, very similar to the Yoda event that we had a few months ago. So now that we know how to unlock him, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic of what's his actual stats. And with these stats, I'm solely going to look at his stats without mods, because with mods, as you know, there are so many different ways you can manipulate his modifications and his stats. So let's go ahead and look at him just for what he is. And Palpatine, right away, he's a very intelligence heavy character, and it's at 1,170. And in case you didn't know, intelligence pretty much means that you have it measures your physical damage, your special damage, and your resistance, and it is higher than most other characters in the game. That's where he exceeds in. Another great pro to Emperor Palpatine is that his potency is relatively good even before mods and his leader ability are applied. It would be at 47% potency. With his leader ability, he gets an extra 32% potency, which really bumps it up to a high number. And again, that is before even considering mods. So his abilities that put stun, shock, all that stuff, we'll talk more about that in detail. It has a high chance of actually applying the effect. And the damage in his primary ability is very high, and it's even higher when you consider the effects of the unique abilities that he has, which we'll talk again in a few moments. His health, it's about average. It's not horrible, and it's also not superb, but it is about average compared to the other characters in the game on a scale of Royal Guard, which is 26,768 before mods, and Darth Maul being the lowest at 9,983. Emperor Palpatine sits at a comfortable 14,000 before any modifications. So one of the cons is that the speed sits at 122, which is slightly below the average compared to the other characters with mods out of the equation. Leia and Rey being the highest at 164, Jedi Knight Guardian at 85. So Emperor Palpatine sits just below the average, and it could be fixed with the work of mods. His protection is also one of his drawbacks. His protection is way below average, and considering the scale of Sun Fac being 30,032 and going all the way to Darth Maul being the lowest at 8,869, Emperor Palpatine hovers around the 10,000 mark for protection, so very low on the scale. Definitely the bottom quartile of all the other characters in the game. So those are pretty much his pros and cons, the summary of them. Let's go ahead and talk about all this in a great detail. So his kit, it's a very unique kit. But at the same time, he is able to use it appropriately, and a lot of the moves are very useful. So with that, his basic attack is very strong. It deals approximately 5,475 damage to about 6,051 before mods, and this attack called Lightning Strike deals special damage to the enemy, and it also shocks the enemy for 3 turns, and for each enemy shocked, he gains 15% turn meter. So what shock is, in case you didn't know, it's a new debuff implemented in this game, which pretty much prohibits one from being healed, gaining buffs, or turn meter. The next move that he has, the Power of the Dark Side, is traditionally the first move that both an actual player and the bot uses. What this move does is that it has a 70% chance to stun all enemies for 1 turn, and those that were previously shocked by Emperor Palpatine, they are immediately stunned for 2 turns. And after being stunned due to their shock debuff that they have, Emperor Palpatine dispels the shock off of them. And this ability does about 2,468 to 2,726 damage before modifications. Now, the next one, Let the Hate Flow. It's a self-heal ability which greatly reflects Palpatine's personality of putting himself before all others. In the process of taking 5% max health from everyone, he regains 150% of the total amount lost and grants allies offense up. Each shocked enemy on the field gives him 50% turn meter, and it refreshes the duration of the shock upon all enemies up to 2 turns once more. Now, the next one, Leader Ability, Emperor of the Galactic Empire. This grants various bonuses to both Sith and Empire characters, with both of them getting a 32% potency buff as well as a max health buff of 32%. Jedi, on the other side, will lose 32% potency and evasion, and anytime an Empire ally inflicts a debuff, they gain 20% turn meter, and when a Sith inflicts a debuff, they gain 20% max health. When considering this leader ability, Palpatine and Vader receive both of these speed and health bonuses due to their affiliations that align with both sides. Now, the unique ability that I alluded to earlier does additional damage after Emperor Palpatine already had his turn. Crackling Doom deals additional special damage at the end of his turn to all shocked enemies, and all Jedi and Rebel enemies also get damage. And usually, this attack does about 2,000 to over 3,000 damage. So when you consider the primary attack or his special with Power of the Dark Side and this Crackling Doom, he can put a lot of damage out. So he is a very powerful character. Now, moving on to the gear requirements, he is actually the character with the lowest requirement for purple gear. He only needs 260 purple gear, and that is the lowest in the game. Sunfac being the highest at 1,100 purple gear required. So Sunfac is very hard to gear up. Palpatine is very, very easy to gear up. However, Palpatine does have the highest requirement for blue gear. So purple gear is the highest before raid gear, and blue gear is the one below it. But fortunately, the blue gear that he needs, it is fairly easy to garner and gather up. The blue gear that he really needs the most, and a huge abundance of, are the Mach 5 Lorinor power cells, as well as the Mach 3 Mursun thermal detonators. Very relatively easy to get. The power cells you can gather from the daily challenges when the intelligence event comes around, and the thermal detonators, they relatively have a high drop rate when you farm them on the tables. When it comes to raid gear, he's pretty much right on the average, with 1 piece being the lowest requirement for raid gear and 6 being the highest, where Gun Ray, Ugnaught, and Boba Fett require that much. Palpatine sits comfortably at 2 raid gear needed, with the Mach 5 droid collar being one of them and the Mach 7 Nubian scanner being the other one that he needs. So you can get this by either participating in the raid, as well as various packs that the developers offer that you may purchase, and lastly, every once in a while, new gear is swapped around in daily shipments and you have a chance to buy them from there. So other tips and information I want to share with you guys is that Emperor Palpatine gives Vader a somewhat of a purpose in this game due to his leader ability, and I have seen Darth Vader being used in the top 10 of Arena quite frequently, mainly because Darth Vader can use his Force Crush, gain a lot of turn meter, and follow up with a Coaling Blade right away. So Darth Vader is a very popular character that people really want to see more of him, and Emperor Palpatine kind of substitutes Vader's downsides and helps him become a more viable character. Another thing that Palpatine does great in is that he works in a variety of lineups. I see him be under Rebel leads, and he just provides support of stunning everyone, so you can use him in a variety of environments. But the typical arena team that we are seeing, it's quite similar to a lot of metas of the past, but pretty much the typical arena team in the top 10 consists of Palpatine being the lead, Royal Guard, Qui-Gon Jinn, Anakin, Stormtrooper Han, Rey, a combination of that sort, and then sometimes you get the occasional Lando and whatnot from there. Another thing that Palpatine is definitely helping out with is the fact that he is making Galactic War far easier than the past, mainly because his high damage, his mass stun, and his ability to prevent tanks from taunting enables you the opportunity to hone down on one character and kill them off, versus a tank like Royal Guard or Stormtrooper Han will divert your attention away from them so they have the opportunity to heal themselves and survive, and then you have to worry about the other characters that are behind the taunter. So he is making Galactic War a lot easier. As I have mentioned, Palpatine is helping me clear Galactic War with just one squad, and most of the time I don't even lose all my protection on any of my characters. And that is all due to the fact that Palpatine is making life a lot easier for people. So with all of that in mind, I just dumped a lot of information on you guys, and I want to move on to my ranking of Emperor Palpatine. Emperor Palpatine, just to kind of summarize everything, he is a very powerful character. He has a very diverse kit, but not too diverse to the point where the bot does not know how to handle it appropriately. I'm looking at Yoda. He has a very diverse kit. However, the bots do not know how to control him properly and when to use his abilities. Emperor Palpatine does not have that barrier because his moves are mostly attacking moves, and he only uses his heal ability when he is low on health, so he will not use it randomly, wasting a turn of shocking someone or stunning someone, which is very good. It also adds new elements to the game. The whole ability of shock adds a new element of the game that makes you have to worry about Emperor Palpatine first, since he will decimate your team and neuter your tanks from being any viable. And then he makes Galactic War a breeze, and he's a very easy character to gear up. Besides the raid gear, you can easily get him to at least gear 8 before having to face the raid gear. And even when you get the raid gear, he doesn't have significant requirements. So, where does he land on my scale? So on my scale, we have Grandmaster, Master, Knight, Padawan, and Youngling. And Emperor Palpatine, without any hesitation in my mind, belongs in the Grandmaster category. He is by far one of the most superb characters in the game. He has shaken up the meta, and he has gotten rid of many characters that we found annoying in the past, and he just brings a new purpose for many characters in this game. Now, of course, if you guys disagree, please feel free to let me know in the comments below why he should be in a different category, or if you agree with me and believe that he is a very awesome character. And if you guys want to pick another character for me to review, I am leaving a link down below in the description where you can check out my characters that I have, and you can also kind of keep track of my stats, my rank, through this link that I'm providing you. So feel free to let me know who you want to see next. So I want to thank you guys for sticking around, listening to all this information, and I hope it was helpful in giving you an idea how Emperor Palpatine fits in this game, as well as the role he plays in the Star Wars universe. So guys, please feel free to let me know what's going on. Do you have this character? Do you think he is one of the best in the game as of now? Leave a like down below, leave a comment as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Subscribe guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. Peace out.